We got a rematch of the Pro-Am Finals this weekend, and the Gladiators got their revenge in a 3-2 win. What will it take for us to wake up and see that the Gladiators are a top team in this league? Glad started the series with a 2-0 win on Lijiang with the Ramatra Brawl against Florida's Reinhardt, and the most interesting matchup here was watching Kevster versus Merit on Sojourn and Hanzo. Kevster was relatively quiet for his standards, but he was consistent and did what he needed to do to win, whereas Merit was a bit more flashy but then disappeared sometimes. The Glads ended up winning this map with better macro play overall and getting better value out of their ultimates. There were countless times where someone would hit a pretty large shatter, but either his team didn't follow up or they got crumpled by Dante and co. After map 1, Florida almost exclusively ran Chorong on Kiriko and RuPaul on Baptiste or Ana as their support line, bringing back the Kiriko Goon Squad from the Pro-Am group stage. On King's Row, Kai came in for Yaki as Checkmate came in for Sana, and Florida started to fight back. On the Gladiators offense, they continued their Ramatra rush, but this time with Kevster on the Mei. Florida's Goon Squad got out-rotated and outworked on first point, but were able to control the flanks on second and hold for 4.5 minutes, which left insufficient time for LA to complete the map. On the Mayhem's offense, Kevster started on Torb, and I gotta be honest, this was the most AI-generated Torbjorn gameplay I have ever seen. This Torb gameplay broke the Kevster AI learning algorithm. Surely he lost a bet or something because this gameplay is unexplainable. After that, even with Kevin going over to the Mei, I think all of the Glads were just broken. They never found a real foothold, and Florida finished the map with 2.5 minutes left on the clock. Moving on to Rialto, Yaki would come back in, and Babel would get his only map of the series. On the Mayhem's offense, both teams started on Widow, Tracer, and Diva, but Florida continued their Kiri Bap support line, whereas Glads went with Lastro on Brig and Babel on Ana. On third point though, both teams ended up on Ramatra variants, with Glads being a bit more rush oriented with Mei and Lucio. I'm guessing that Kevster was on Widow for flexibility reasons because he did swap over to Genji late on the defense. Regardless, this Widow duel was not one for the ages. It's not like Kev was playing poorly, but he was getting his lunch money stolen by Checkmate and Chorong constantly, and Merit definitely got the better end of the deal. On LA's attack, both teams opted for the Goon Squad, and even though someone started on Diva, it quickly became a Ramatra mirror once again. The Gladiators were never able to find the purchase they needed and got full held. With Florida up 2-1, we head to New Queen Street, and each team was trying to constantly gain the compositional advantage. We had JQV Ram to Ram v Ram to Ram v Winston to JQV Winston to JQV Doomfist, and there's more on that to come. These comp swaps played a large part in this being a very close back and forth map. There were some key fights towards the end that resulted in the Glads getting this map win though. With about 1.5 minutes left, Florida had the lead, but someone overstayed his welcome for seemingly no reason at the beginning of a fight and died. This translated to a pretty scrappy fight that Florida still won, but they did have to concede the checkpoint. Later, just before Yaki set off his EMP, someone primal, and this did give him a bunch of HP, but he also lost all of his armor and got completely blown up. Florida were able to refrag this, and they gave themselves some leeway for the upcoming overtime fight, but someone had already made the unfortunate decision to swap to Doomfist. With someone on Doomfist, Florida couldn't hold their ground against the Gladiators Junker Queen comp, so they gave space until RuPaul finished building Nano. However, even with Nano, someone still couldn't get anything done, and the Gladiators were able to dismantle their awkward composition and send the series to map 5. The final map to the side of the series, Ilios, went pretty hard. Lighthouse featured an Ashe, Echo, Diva, Mercy on a mirror, and while Florida put up a fight, they fell slightly out of their depth and would lose the round. Diva is one of someone's weaker tanks, and Checkmate had some questionable decision making, like choosing to shoot at a full HP Yaki instead of beam down Dante at half HP and no boosters. Yaki also got a chance to remind everyone that his Echo is still very good. Ruins had everything you could want. Back and forth point control, some hero preferences coming out, and insane clutch plays. Glads went with Dante Junker Queen, Kev Sojourn, and Yaki Genji, while Florida stuck with someone on Ram, Merit on Widow and Ashe, and Checkmate on Tracer. Checkmate absolutely pounded this round. With no opposing Tracer to mark him at all, he had a couple fights where he just ravaged the back backline, including the overtime fight. Yaki looked okay on the Genji, but it definitely didn't have the same pressure that and with that, it all came down to, well, each team loaded in the same comps as last round and went to work. But after losing the initial fight, Dante swapped to Winston for the first time in this match, and it worked. Glads won a fight, aggressively pushed into Florida's spawn, and found the picks they were looking for. Florida tried to flip the fight with ults, but Glads were able to kite back and maintain control. And then before we knew it, this ended up being a scrappy fight that lasted like 80%. At the peak of this fight, Checkmate got a nice 3k, only for Lastro to kill 2 in the backline and escape, signaling the beginning of the end for Florida and playing a major part in the Gladiators' eventual win. This match was as good as advertised, and we were all caught sleeping on the Glads again. The crazy thing is that Kevster hasn't been as dominant as usual, and they still look insane. Imagine this team, but also with Kevster being the war criminal he is. As I'm making this, Glads still have to play Atlanta this weekend, and with how they're playing, I could see them take that match for sure. But let me know your thoughts down below. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, subscribe and tell all your friends for more Overwatch League content. Have yourself a good one. Deuces.